wonderful family.
Laura Ingraham joins us from our nation's capital today. Laura, you know Tony.
Oh, yeah. I first met Tony when I was working for the Reagan administration. I think I was all of like 23 years old, and Tony was the editorial director at the Washington Times. And so I remember having great lunches with him. And, of course, when he was diagnosed with cancer, I think it was about the same time that I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So he wrote me such a poignant note, and we talked a lot just about what it was like to kind of walk through that dark period together. He was such an inspiration to me. I miss him all the time. Yeah. What a wonderful person and a beautiful family as well.
And Dana Prida became spokesperson after his death, correct? Isn't that right?
Correct. Yep.
Right.
She took over for him after he passed on. But he was the kind of person who just never complained about it.
Yeah.
Just said, look, it's the walk I have. You know, God doesn't give us anything that we can't handle on our, with his help. And he is a man of great faith, and that really sustained him, and I think sustains his memory as well. So
and you're doing okay now, right?
It's now 11 years out, so as okay as anyone's going to be. We never know when the tap on the shoulder is going to come, right, guys? So just enjoy every moment and try to do the right thing.
That's the perfect way to approach everything. Laura, let's talk a little bit about our president. He's going down to Dallas today. He's going to join George W. Bush as they honor the policemen who were ambushed last week. Now, what's curious, though, is President Obama has had a contentious relationship with America's cops, and I think it probably started with by calling the Cambridge cops that they acted stupidly when Henry Gates was arrested during that scuffle.
Yeah, it began in a really rocky fashion, and
it led to a beer summit.
Oh yeah, remember the beer summit with the officer. But I always like to talk to the individuals on the ground who are actually doing the hard work. So you guys have a lot of friends in the NYPD, as do I, detectives, and friends down in D.C. who are police officers. It's interesting to talk to them about how they feel about what the administration has done. And I'd say about 6 out of the 7 guys, they're all men, that I happen to know, feel like it is hostile. It's almost like a hostile. It's a hostile working situation for them when they believe that the administration in various points has given more credence to groups like Black Lives Matter than the credibility of the men and women who are doing all this difficult work day in and day out for very little money. And so I'm glad the president's going down to Dallas. I think it'll be a really nice moment for the country. But I think more practically, we have to understand that shutting down major thoroughfares and screaming epithets 2 inches from a police officer's face and putting a video camera in front of their face every moment of every day, I think it's a really hard situation for the police right now. And I don't know who would want to be a police officer today, given this climate.
Well, and the Dallas police chief has been such a powerful foil to Barack Obama.
Oh, I love him.
Do you think the president can deliver, is capable of delivering the kind of truths that this police chief has been?
Do I think he's capable of it?
Yeah,
I think Obama is a master politician. I think he will perform well today. But his actions over the last 7.5 years, in my view, have been among the most divisive that I've ever seen in politics. And I think as someone who came in with such promise, even though I don't agree with a lot of his views, promise as a father, as a role model for so many African-American men, it would be nice on occasion if President Obama stood up and said, you know, we have to take better responsibility for our families, for our communities, for our neighborhoods. Stop acting in a menacing way toward police. Try to respect the police when you're stopped. And if you really have a complaint, make it at the time. Make it respectfully. Sure. He did that thing called My Brother's Keeper, which is actually a pretty good thing that he launched a few years ago. But you never hear anything about that. It's always the negative story about the police. So I think he's done an enormous amount of damage to race relations in the United States.
Laura, we've been talking a lot about Trump's potential vice presidential list, or who he's going to pick. Steve was interviewing the Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, who was on our show earlier. We want to play this soundbite for you and then talk about that list.
Sure.
I grew up as a Democrat in a very strong Democratic family. My mother was the president of the Right to Life Association in the state of Rhode Island. She worked for the Democratic Party in the state of Rhode Island at that time, which is a heavy Democratic state still. But she was the president of the Right to Life Committee there and ran a lot. In fact, she ran for Secretary of State for the state of Rhode Island. And I love talking about my mother because she's the most courageous person I've ever known in my life. What I believe in is I believe in law, Steve, and I believe that right now we have a law. If people that are concerned about this issue, they need to make sure that they vote for Donald Trump so we can get the right Supreme Court justices in there to essentially change whatever it needs to be changed. But that's the law right now. It's illegal. This is a legal issue.
So he was explaining his abortion comment.
And being a Democrat.
You know, he said it's the law, okay? I love General Flynn, but it shows the danger of naming someone who's never walked through the political or media fire that you need to have walked through to be vice president. He botched that question. There's no law. It was just made up by the Supreme Court in Roe versus Wade. And emanations and penumbras out of the Equal Protection Clause. There's a right to now abort one's offspring. It's ridiculous. So he didn't answer that well. I've got to say, on LifeSet, we have a really interesting piece about why Rick Santorum makes sense. I know he's not on the short list, but it's interesting to read and look at. People should all go to lifeset.com and read about Santorum and why he actually might be well suited for this ticket. Okay,
so Laura, we're going to put up the short list. Jeff Sessions, the senator from Alabama. Newt Gingrich, Mike Pence, the governor of Indiana, Chris Christie, the Republican governor of New Jersey, General Flynn, Tom Cotton. If you had to pick one of those guys, who would you pick?
Oh, just on the short list.
Just that short list.
I like Chris Christie. I think all the other, I like Santorum. I like Chris Christie. Chris Christie, of that list again, he has been vetted by the media endlessly. He has acquitted himself brilliantly, frankly, in debates, especially against Marco Rubio. I know a lot of people like Rubio, but he was brilliant in totally taking him apart. And he's loyal on the issues that I think are going to drive this election: the anti-globalization, pro-law and order, homeland security, and also he's good on foreign policy. Now, he's not as informed on military policy, obviously, as General Flynn, but I think Christie has done a really good job. I know a lot of conservatives still have doubts about him. Mike Pence is a strong guy. Newt Gingrich is brilliant. Look, I would be happy with any of the 6 people, frankly, that are mentioned, but I think Trump, more than anything, has to have someone who is unafraid, courageous, and bold against what will be a media onslaught.
Yeah, Laura, one of those people that maybe doesn't like that list or won't be on the list broke his silence. Jeb Bush came out and gave an interview recently about Donald Trump after some time in the wilderness. Let's play the clip, get you to react to it.
There isn't going to be a wall built, and Mexico's not going to pay for it. And there's not going to be a ban on Muslims. None of that is, this is all like a alternative universe that he created. The reality is that's not going to happen. And that's the heartbreaking part of this, is I think people are going to really feel betrayed.
Speaking of betrayed, didn't he sign a pledge?
Didn't matter. I have 4 words to say to Jeb Bush, who I think did a great job as governor. Couldn't win, own state. Okay? Couldn't win his own state. Now he's trashing the Republican nominee. I joked yesterday on Twitter that Hillary should just, make this official and name Jeb Bush as her running mate, because I think they have a lot in common on a lot of issues, and he obviously wants Hillary Clinton to win.
Boy. All right. She's the editor-in-chief of LifeZet. Check out that article she was talking about a little while ago, and she's going to be on the radio here in about 45 minutes all across the country. Laura, thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.